runs very nicely.
Yeah.
It feels very responsive. Welcome to an episode of Jay Leno's Garage, automotive royalty from England this time. This is the Jaguar XJ13 Replica. There's only one of these and it belonged to the Jaguar heritage. And I was fortunate enough to be able to drive that real one a number of years ago, God, almost 20 years ago, when we visited the Heritage Center over there. This is what you call a tool room copy, beautifully made, exactly like the original. Might be a few smaller things, but you know, the name replica has come to mean something kind of close, and you tend to think of Volkswagen engine replicas that look like SSKs. No, for the most part, it's pretty much exactly the way they built them, with a few updates. You know, you've got a little different fuel injection. The original had Lucas, a few other things, but hand-built, just beautifully, beautifully done. This is a replica in the truest sense of the word. It's a pretty exciting automobile. It's mid-engine. As I remember, I think this was meant to run about 1965 and the rules changed or something happened and the car never actually got produced. Just take a look at the beautiful shape of this car. It's just that classic Jaguar styling, just beautiful. This was the height of Jaguar to me. You had the XKE, you had this. Why this never really went into production? Well, it was supposed to be a race car. It was meant to be a production car, but we'll find out more. Let's meet the owner, Tyler Schilling. Tyler, come on in, my friend. Well, you are a true enthusiast. This is a labor of love as I've never seen. Every rivet, beautiful. It's just unbelievable. How long did this take to build?
This project was 6 years.
Wow.
To go from placing the order to being able to display it.
Yeah, and what was the time supposed to be? I'm just curious.
So like most of these custom car projects,
Right.
It started out as it would be ready by the end of the year.
End of the year, no problem. They just don't tell you what year that'll be.
That's right.
Like when you buy a Morgan, it's like 7 years out. Hey, your 2015 just came in. Oh, fantastic, you know. But you know something, it is well worth it. It is one of the most beautiful automobiles I've ever seen in my life, both in construction and in design. It's just unbelievable. I can't imagine what this would have done back in the day. It seemed like it would be easy 180 mile an hour, if not 200 mile an hour car in the mid 60s, wouldn't you say?
I think that's true.
Yeah. And what was the story behind it? Why didn't it sort of reach fruition, as they say?
So there are a number of stories.
Yeah.
It was going to be Jaguar's return to Le Mans.
Right.
And the idea was that they would compete again in 1965. A number of different things happened. Ford came in with, you know, big, powerful V8s.
Right.
And there was some talk about rule changes. But I think the most credible reason has to do with the financial condition of the company itself.
That's right. When you say 1965, I'm thinking of this, but I really think of Ford was all out to just conquer Le Mans with Ferrari. I mean, they were flying windshields in on 740, just all kinds of just unlimited fun. So Jaguar being a fairly small company. That being said, so they just built one, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, and it never raced, did it?
It did not.
Yeah.
It was run at two separate tracks, at Mira and also at Silverstone in testing.
And what kind of speeds did it reach there? Well, those aren't Le Mans straightaways. But
Right. No, I believe you're right, about 180 miles an hour.
yeah. When they built it, they didn't pull out because they didn't think it could do it. There were other reasons why, right? Because
Yes.
there doesn't seem to be any design flaws. Oh my gosh, we didn't expect it. Because the original engine was a V12 4-cam, correct?
That's correct, and it was developed specifically for this car, and it was Jaguar's very first V12.
So when they went into production with the V12 Jag, they made a single cam on each side, but same bottom end?
I believe there were similarities, but
Okay.
it's not really the same bottom end.
Okay. Now this one is not the 4-cam. This is a twin-cam V12, correct?
That's correct.
Right. Okay. So that's the only difference from the original, and a 4-speed, not a 5-speed.
This
correct?
has a 5-speed.
Oh, it is a 5-speed.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Did the original have a 5-speed as well?
It did.
Is this a wind tunnel developed shape, or is this just Malcolm Sayers just using his innate knowledge, I guess?
So it's a little bit of both,
Yeah.
but way more Malcolm Sayer than wind tunnel.
Well, that's where the beauty comes in, because true aerodynamics are not that pretty. You know, like a Prius is really aerodynamic. A Countach is not. But I think people would think a Countach would be more exciting. Well, actually it is, but it's a brick. It's like putting a pane of glass up. It's just not aerodynamic at all. But this looks like it would combine the best of both worlds. It just seems like if you put tufts of wool like they used to do in this thing, I think you'd see them all going in the same direction, because everything just seems to flow. So why did you want to build one of these? Were you just had you even seen the real car before you decided to build one?
Yeah, actually, that's what inspired me. I went to Pebble Beach Concours in 2010, and the Heritage Museum had brought the original there. And the moment I saw it, I said, I have to have one of these.
Were they the first people who went to? Who built this? Legend? What's the name of the company?
The company is called Building the Legend, and they're near Coventry.
God bless the English. They are the best craftsmen. But like I always say, my sort of joke is the English build one of anything great. You got okay, and then, oh, you build. Can you build me two more? And it just doesn't happen. It just doesn't happen. You know, they are a nation of just craftsmen, just these small shops that can do incredible metal work, chassis work, engine work. It's really exciting. And so how did you find them? Because I remember there were a lot of people building XJ13s.
So the first thing I did when I got home after Pebble Beach was started looking at replicas, and none of them were of the fidelity that I thought I would want to own.
Yeah.
And then a number of years later, I would continue searching, you know, every 6 months or so. I came across this gentleman and his company, and so I flew over to see him and see what they were doing. And it was clear that his objective was to build something that was extremely faithful. And interestingly, he was inspired by finding one of the 6 4-cam motors, and that kind of kick-started the whole project for him.
It is funny when you see replicas that are just a little bit off, because it ruins the original for you. You know, I always will make it like, you ever see those St. Bernards that'll, ow, ow, you know, they just, you know, you go to pet them and they go, ow, 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 you know, they're okay, this one's a crazy St. Bernard, you know, or a Great Dane, whatever it might be, you know. That's what it always reminds me of. Because there's just some awful Cobra replicas out there. I saw one today where the wheels are out further than the fenders, and bad Auburn Speedster replicas that just kind of ruin the real one for you. But this one is faithful an adaptation as I've ever seen.
And I think I should add that this one is faithful to the original form of the XJ13. The car was on a press photography outing in 1971 at the Mira track and was totaled. And
yeah, that's right.
When the car was rebuilt, they ended up changing the form of the wheel arches slightly and flaring the fenders and using different wheels on the car.
Oh, okay.
So this one is built to replicate the original form of the car.
Well, speaking of that, a lot of people wonder, well, how do you build a car like this? Well, first you build a buck, which is what we have over here. This is a work of art in itself. You had this built just to explain to people how this got built, didn't you?
Yeah, and I just love this kind of behind the scenes, how you do it aspects of machinery, the parts that people rarely see.
I guess you assemble it almost like a model?
Yeah, it's called this type of buck. There are several different kinds. This is called an egg crate, you know, for obvious reasons. And what it is it's really a 3-dimensional template that the craftspeople use when they're forming the panels. So you first use it to decide where you're going to begin and end a specific panel.
Right.
And then you make a paper or a cloth template to cut the sheet metal to the right outline. And then as you're forming it, you come back to the buck and kind of test fit it on here to see if it's faithful to the 3-dimensional shape.
So you don't actually bend the metal over the wood? No. You use an English wheel or something, and then you fit it on. Okay.
That's correct.
I mean, that's such a lost art. I mean, there are people that do it, and it's actually better now than it was even 30 years ago, because now it's coming back as an art form.
And I find it fascinating to watch.
Oh yeah.
You know, it's a small part science, almost all art. and a lot of talent, you know, you can become proficient in probably a couple of years, and mastery takes decades.
How many pieces are in here?
I don't know. Far too many.
Pretty amazing. All right. Well, let's get back to the car again. Now, this has a Jaguar V12 single cam. What has been, I see you've got fuel injection in here. What has been done to the engine? Anything else?
You know, it's, as the British would say, been uprated slightly with higher compression.
Right.
It's
been recommissioned.
Yes, it's slightly larger displacement. This is 6.4, 6.4 liters.
Right.
And then it has electronic fuel injection.
Can this open, or should we not?
Certainly.
Let's see.
Yeah, just flip that lever on that side there off to the side.
Well, beautiful headers. Oh my gosh. Yeah, it's just a work of art. I mean, polishing it must take a week, right?
Yeah.
Pretty close to it.
A long-term friend of mine, Tim Ranstrom, and I spent, I would say, 300 to 350 hours sanding and polishing the car.
Yeah, and he became a long-term friend just from polishing.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. All right, let's bring it down. This is plexiglass?
Yes.
Yeah. And the heat doesn't distort that, huh?
It has a set of fans in there to draw the heat away from the headers.
I see, okay. Now, what is this material on the seats?
That is shrunken bison hide.
Shrunken bison hide.
But we had it shrunken by professionals.
Oh,
We didn't
okay.
attempt it ourselves. It makes that really wrinkly, kind of weathered look to it. And I wanted that because the polished car and the exposed rivets remind me of a warbird, and that reminds me of a bomber jacket.
Race cars are just so much more beautiful back in the 50s and 60s for some reason. Now they take on atomic insect look, or where this just has a flow to it. It's just beautiful. All the Smith gauges, all those Smith gauges,
Yes.
I assume they are. Yeah, I just recognize the lettering. Interesting, and you're shifting with this hand, but even though it's right-hand drive. Normally in a Jaguar right hand, you'd be shifting with your left hand. So they've moved it over to here.
Yeah, with the transaxle at the rear, it's an easier routing for the linkage.
Are the seats adjustable, or one size fits all for this?
They're adjustable as long as you want them exactly in that position.
And how big a tank does this have?
This will hold a little over 30 gallons.
Okay.
There's a tank in each one of these door sills.
Is there filler on each side?
No, it fills from a single one that feeds to both sides, and then there's a cross tube that equalizes the two tanks.
Oh, okay. You think they would have put that in the road cars, because the other Jaguars used to have a tank on each side. And if you look here at the interior, those look like radiator hot water pipes?
Down in between the seats is one radiator line.
Right.
The bottom lower pipe is another one. And then the two smaller pipes above that are for the oil cooler.
Okay, so you must get a lot of heat in this thing.
You do get some heat. It's a bit like driving an oven on high.
That's an English answer. You get some heat across the wood steering wheel. And that's something they would have had on the race car, wouldn't they? As opposed to today, you wouldn't have. I mean, it's purely for decorative.
Yeah, it was like this on the original, and in fact, a gentleman in the competition department at Jaguar, Peter Wilson, made the original wheel for the car.
And I said you have fuel injection as opposed to, it would have had carburetors back in the day.
It was actually Lucas mechanical fuel injection back then. Yep.
Even a 65. Oh, okay. That could be another reason why they didn't race, but yeah. And Le Mans rules, you had to have a spare tire, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Because it was considered a road car, because if you got a flat on the track, the driver had to get out, change the tire, right? He couldn't have any help.
That's right.
Right, so if you got help, you were disqualified. Right?
So you had to have a spare tire, and you also had to have 2 seats.
And a jack, you need a jack and
a jack,
yeah.
and you'll notice that the passenger seat is quite a bit smaller than the driver's seat.
Right.
I don't think the size of the seat was specified. You just had to have 2 seats.
Oh, I see, okay. Interesting, a rear view mirror rather than outside, because most cars of the period had outside mirrors on the fenders. but not on this, eh?
On the original, they have mirrors on the,
Oh, they do?
fenders. I just
Okay.
didn't want to break up the,
Right,
flow
yeah.
of the car.
Right. And under here is what?
Under there is access to the battery.
Oh, just battery, okay. Oh,
And-
of course, yeah, I see.
And then there's another one on this side with access to the tank for the dry sump oiling system.
How many quarts of oil?
I think it took about 13.
13. Well, yeah, that's about right for, that's what the road car was too. So I don't know why I thought it'd be like 26 or something, but no. And of course, the legendary disc brakes all the way around, which Jaguar was known for. And those were 15 years old by the time this thing came out, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a given. Under the hood here, at the front, what do we have under here? Do we have fans under here for radiator?
Yeah, there's the radiator for the coolant and a radiator for the oil,
Okay.
an electric fan, and then there's also a fire bottle.
Is this plexiglass as well, or is this glass?
No, that's glass, and this is actually formed on the original tool that was used for the original car.
Oh, is that right? Oh, okay.
They still had the tools.
Well, that's a great thing about the English. They save everything. A friend of mine worked on the film Mutiny on the Bounty. So they go to England, and he says, oh, look, the shop where Captain Bligh got his tailoring, his suit made, is still in business. And they said, oh, we're doing the movie. We want to have something that's exactly what Captain Bligh would have. I go, oh, yeah, hang on. Takes out the book. Yeah, Captain Bligh, yeah, something right there. Oh, the guy signed it right there, Captain Bligh. I mean, it was just so funny to me. That's what I like about things. They just save everything, write everything down, save everything. History belongs to those who write it down, and that's why they do that, I guess. But that always made me laugh. Oh, it's Captain Bligh right there. Man, that's sort of funny. Yeah, and there's so much history here. It was a golden age for Jaguar, yet the company was always in trouble, wasn't it? It's just always that tripping over your own feet kind of thing. But just, what was it? Grace, pace, and what was the other one in Jaguar? That was there were three.
I don't think I know that saying.
Pace, and something. Well, somebody will put in the car. Damn it, Leno. I'll get that. But yeah, I always loved that era. I mean, you had the XKE, you had the Mark II, you had all those great Jaguars, all based around that wonderful twin cam engine, which was so far ahead of its time. I mean, that was like the small block Chevy of England. They used it in everything from 1948 up until a couple of years ago, I guess, pretty much. Yeah, pretty amazing. Pretty amazing. But this is what might have been, But what's that poem by John Greenleaf where of all the sad words of tongue and pen, no sadder are these that might have been. Something that had amazing potential and just died on the starting line, or didn't get it, or couldn't afford it, or whatever. But it would have been fun watching this run against the GT40s and everything else, and the Ferraris as well. Yeah, it seemed like, I mean, you had it done. You just out of money, you just run out.
I think it really highlights how difficult an effort that kind of thing is. It can fail for any number of reasons.
Right. I know when they went originally with the 289, it was all small stuff that broke, just didn't have the tank-fill strength or whatever it might be. And then they just put that big lump of a 427 in there, and that kind of just crushed everybody. But then the rules changed on that one too, so yeah. It's a great test of endurance and skill, but just a classically beautiful car. What else do we have here? So this whole rear section comes out?
Yep.
Can we do that? Let's
Sure.
take a look. Well, as you can see, we've got the rear deck off. Boy, just beautiful. And that transmission, that is a Quaife unit, is that what you said?
That's correct, with the ZF internals.
Okay. And what did they have originally? A ZF?
It was a ZF box originally.
Okay, so they just cast it. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, Quaife does a nice job. I've used them on a few projects. And the exhaust is, I thought this had mufflers on it, but being a 12, it's somewhat muffled. The more cylinders you have, the quieter it's going to be. So it actually sounds wonderful. Nicely done.
And I think the X-pipe kind of helps with that too.
Right. There are your fans. Now, the original car did not have fans, did it?
That's correct.
Right,
We just fitted those to prevent the radiating heat from the headers from disturbing the plexiglass engine cover.
Now, and the original car on the plexiglass cover, did they have like slots here to pull it?
No.
Oh, they had it totally covered, so
Yes.
everything was sealed in there. Okay. Now, why was that? You'd think you'd want fresh air, no?
Yeah, so there are some tiny vents at the back end of the
Yeah.
cover, but it's hard to believe that it would be sufficient. So air must get kind of drawn out the bottom of the car.
Right. Now, getting to the plugs is a day at the beach, isn't it?
Yeah, they're in the middle of
my
the V
God.
here.
Oh
It's
my
an
God.
inside plug arrangement.
Yow. Is that electronic ignition in it now? Or?
Yes, it
Yeah,
does have
yeah.
electronic ignition.
Yeah, okay.
And it's actually controlled with Hawley fuel injection as two separate six-cylinder engines.
Right. Well, that's basically what the 12 was. They took two of their twin cam 6s and put it together to make a 12, which just seems...
That's correct.
Yeah, so, yeah, interesting. There's a wonderful engineer named Alan Millyard out of England. Do you know him? Do you
Yeah,
know the
he does
name?
amazing stuff.
12-cylinder CBXs and just all kinds of incredible stuff. He could make one of those.
And it works.
Yeah, I don't know how you I don't know how you do it. I'm one of these guys. Yeah, it's close enough, But I mean, he's just a brilliant engineer. Okay, and we've got here this is your chassis brace, and what is that there?
This is one of the two nozzles in the engine compartment for the fire system.
Oh, I see. Okay, okay.
And one interesting but unsuccessful aspect is that the half shaft is actually the upper parallel link. So that's a loaded member of the suspension.
Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah. And what is this box? What am I doing?
That's an air box that is connected to those haunch vents you see on the car.
Right.
The big vents, and this is meant to blow air down into the brakes.
Oh, I see. Okay. It's interesting. Whereas on the XKE, the brakes were inboard on the road car,
Yep.
but yet on the race car, they're outboard, which is...
Yeah, I think it might be related to the fact that Jochen Rindt was killed in a Formula One car that had inboard brakes when a U-joint failed.
Oh, interesting. Oh, wow. Well, very good. All right, let's put this back on. Well, it only took about 5 minutes, 10 minutes to get that rear deck off. We'll put it back on and take it for a ride. It's very exciting. We've got normal ground clearance here, so we're not going to just test the brake. Ready to go 180?
Yeah.
Goes very nicely.
Yeah, this is my first stint as a passenger.
What does this weigh?
2,300.
2,300 pounds. About the same as a Miata, maybe a little bit less.
Right, and about 400 horsepower.
Yeah. Well, it feels very responsive. And just the history is exciting.
Yeah, can you imagine doing 24 hours in this with just a co-driver?
Could actually. It seems like it'd be very exciting, Sterling Moss took me around Laguna Seca in his, his record-breaking car, the actual one, the SLR.
Awesome.
That was really exciting. Boy, very nice. No flat spots. Well, this is really exciting. You know what? I mean, I did get to drive the real one, but it feels exactly the same. Not that I went any great distance, but just around the track a few times, but it was very exciting.
It's actually pretty exciting from the passenger seat, too. Yeah, probably not as hard over to the left. It'll take off in second, too.
Yeah.
It's got plenty of torque.
Yeah. What's this, about 389 cubic inches, something like that?
Let's see, whatever 6.4 liters is.
Yeah. Oh, that'd be 418, something like that. Imagine the wind over your head at 180 in this.
Yeah, pretty crazy.
You almost think they would have gone with a fully enclosed car. Oh, this is fantastic. I think I gotta talk to this legend guy. I gotta get him on the phone.
Yeah, it's a pretty amazing car.
Yeah, it's a pretty amazing car. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Real treat. I always like meeting real enthusiasts. I mean, the love and the passion you have in this, it really comes through. It's just fantastic.
Well, thanks for inviting us.
Oh, and the exciting part is, no matter what speed you drive, it's exciting.